So I'm just going to open this question up to whoever would like to answer it. If this is the case, why do we have this difficulty of many stern-faced Muslims? Why do we have something that really disturbed me when I saw, we had Dalia Mogahed, head of the Center for Muslim Studies at Gallup up here, and they released a report in early 2009 that surveyed American Muslims. And some of the dimensions that they measured were psychological dimensions or emotional. And one of the things that struck me immediately was the high reported levels of anger among many of our youth, in fact, Muslim American youth. And I was really struck by that. What was interesting to me was that there was more anger than sadness. And I kind of thought, well, maybe we've somehow given the signal that anger is acceptable in a way that sadness isn't. You know, sadness maybe shows weakness, and anger shows a kind of strength, so among males in particular it might be acceptable. But what's going on? I mean, what is going on that we don't have enough reported happiness in our community?
Well, one of the things, I know people always say I look at root words and things like that. Somebody's always like this Greek guy on my big fat Greek wedding or something. But the word anger, the root word of that means pain. It comes from a root word which is angst. And we also get anxiety from the same root, which in Arabic is hum, you know, worry and concern. And I think one of the things that is very unique about our time that's different from previous times is the internet and media. That people see pain all over the world now in ways they've never seen it before. And, you know, when Imam al-Ghazali was living in Iraq, Palestine was under Crusader occupation, but that didn't stop him because he wasn't watching CNN reports about what they were doing in Palestine. And so I think a lot of the problem is this exposure to so much pain and suffering, and Muslims take these things very seriously. You know, that Muslims have righteous indignation. They get angry about things that are wrong, and there's so many things that are wrong in the world. But Imam Zayd likes to emphasize an American wisdom. Don't get angry, get even. You know, that you can be angry all the time, but if you don't do something about it, and that's where I think the real problem in our Muslim communities is there are not enough Muslims actively engaged in changing the world and in righting the wrongs. And you don't begin by righting wrongs far away. To quote a great American, Ralph Waldo Emerson, he said, I tired of my neighbor who was always going on about the slaves in Barbados, and he was beating his wife. You know, change your local community. Alleviate suffering around you, and your state will change. But as long as Muslims are actively engaged in pointing the finger, the blame game, I read the Quran looking for blame, and I found that believers are those who aren't afraid of being blamed. لَا يَخَافُونَ لَوْمَةَ لَائِمٍ. But the one who loves to blame is the devil. The devil is the blamer in the Quran. The devil points fingers. Adam, who is one of our exemplars, said, I wronged myself. And Iblis said, you wronged me. He pointed to God. Raghib al-Isfahani says, that's the reason why Adam is the caliph and not Iblis. Because Adam was willing to look into himself and not to blame others.
Very quickly, to add to that, sometimes I think these posters, they talk to the wrong Muslims. You know, no one ever asked me if I was happy to fill out a poll. And how many of you filled out one? How many of you have been polled in here? Raise your hand. There's about 10 hands in this whole audience. So, you know...
okay, let's do our own poll. How many of you are happy?
How many of you are happy? Stand up. Stand up. Raise your hands in the air if you're happy. Wave them like you definitely care. Takbir. Yeah, it's a representative sampling of the Muslims in America. We had a retreat. Now, they said young people. This was about 5 years ago. And we were visited by Johnny Walker Lynn's mother, the American Taliban. Are we supposed to say that?
Yeah. I think it's okay. It's a new
day. It's his mother, not Johnny. And she visited, and she spent a day or two, and she said this was the most dignified group of young people she's ever witnessed in her life. Remember that? And so I just think that these posters, they're talking to the wrong people. I heard there's a poll that the person went to visit 70 masjids in America and talked to so many. I would imagine that there's a whole category of masjids that won't visit. I'm waiting to see the film. I don't want to prejudge it, but I'm waiting to see it. Inshallah.
Maybe in addition to what's been said about the youth, I think one of the things we can definitely, it's not that we want to blame, as you say, others too heavily, because we're all involved and we're all guilty, if you like, or responsible. But for the youth to be born and to be brought up and given an education system and by those who are teaching, who are really a lot of teachers, to be honest, today, it's career. They're not teachers. They're not people that you can really look up to and want to follow. And as a model human being, that is the big problem, because then if you're stuck at school and you've got like these teachers that don't really like what they're doing, they don't like you don't like them, you don't understand what they're talking, don't want to learn, that's a problem. I must admit, I was pretty much a rebel student myself. And I remember with one teacher, he just couldn't teach algebra to me, And I said to him, look, I'm not going to, look, what is X? He says, it doesn't matter. I said, it does matter. I want to know what is X. And because he wasn't able to teach me the love of algebra, which is a fantastic science, I was bored.
We're happy about that, though. You ended up okay, not pursuing algebra. So, but I mean, certainly all of you are passionate about education. And you've all put a significant effort into education and see that as really probably the most important institution in our society to really shape these values and perspectives and attitudes. So I know unfortunately our time is short. Can you just maybe add a few words to finish up with really our responsibility to help shape these values and to shape happy people? To form our children and our community to be that community that is filled with this joy and happiness that we should have, given all of the blessings that we have, the blessing of faith and all of the many other opportunities, material opportunities we have to express that.
Of course, Bismillah, that is a tremendous responsibility, and it's one we're called on to undertake. A Prophet ﷺ mentioned, بَلِّغُ عَنِّي وَلَوْ آيَةً, convey these teachings even to the extent of a single verse that you might understand. So we're all enjoined to convey that. But I think the most important lesson that we convey is through our character. And that is how our Prophet was most effective, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It was through what he did, as was mentioned earlier, and not what he said. One of the strongest condemnations in the Quran is the verse, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لِمَا تَقُولُونَ مَا لَا تَفْعَلُونَ كَبَرَ مَقْتًا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَن تَقُولُوا مَا لَا تَفْعَلُونَ. O you believers, and this is addressing the believers, not anyone else. Why do you say that which you don't do? It is grievously, is terribly hated with your Lord that you say that which you don't do. So I think the most important pedagogical lesson we can convey is making sure that the beautiful, lovely things we say about the religion, that our actions are consistent with those things. And to do that, we have to educate people as to how they can illuminate their hearts. Because at the end of the day, the tongue, the limbs, they're only reflections of what's in the heart.